we are back for this week in Brave Exvius for September 21st, 2022. I'm Tony Ortiz. We're going to take a look at all the stuff that happened this week in the game. And honestly, there's not much, but the two big things that did happen are big deals. So we're going to go over them today. That's obviously a new unit, global exclusive unit, and Clash of Wills. There's some other stuff going on, but not really. Just continuation of raids and all that. Before we dive in, first, I just want to say thanks for everybody for coming back and all that. No streams last week or this week. Just a lot of stuff going on in my life personally, and I had to take care of some of that stuff. I still recorded an episode from last week and put it out. So appreciate anybody who checked that out. But yeah, we should be back on the regular schedule now. And I'm just noticing that my graphics off just a little bit here. Let me just fix. There we go. Okay. There we go. Now that was going to bug me the whole time if I didn't fix it. Okay, and so let's go through the new unit. So like the title says, we finally have a meta evoker. When unit first came out as a premium unit, people thought that we might have a meta evoker, but she was element locked to single element. She was premium, not accessible for a lot of people, and she was also coming on the back of a much better premium unit at the time. Who was imbuable to a certain extent, depending on what you want to do. In Orin, I don't know. No, he's win locked, isn't he? Let me see. Let me think. Orin, yeah, because you want to limit break with him, and I believe his limit break is win lock. So, but even still, out of the two, he had the much better equipment. Yuna had a pretty good STMR, but the Orin STMR is obviously much better for Titus, and then also his card. Is something that he or Titus could use. And at the time, Star Player Titus was a great way for players to clear a lot of more difficult content that had less resources available. So you really wanted to hit Orin back when she came out, and 60k pity for her was not really the way to go. And even then, once you got her, she just didn't have the stuff. I mean, now she's been upgraded, but she's hardly meta. Again, locked to light damage. You're not going to see her in Clash. You might see her occasionally in Dark Visions, but probably not too much. So Sakiko, though, definitely has the skills to pay the bills, as they would say. She's the first evoker in the Neo Vision era that's meta. I believe, if you go back to the 7-star era, Morgana might have been one that was usable. I didn't really play a ton in that era, so I pretty much came back right as the Neo Vision era was about to start. Kind of hyped for it. So she's got 3 different elements. Obviously she prefers Earth over the other 2, but they still work just fine. The one key thing that we want to talk about when we talk about evoke damage is that it is not imbuable. So the only 3 elements she'll ever be able to do are those 3, and you won't be able to imbue her with any additional elements. So if you ever find a fight where it's weak to light and water, there's no way to imbue Sakiko with water to get her to be able to hit both. So that's one of the things about evokers that just kind of intrinsically makes them a harder call for the meta, depending on what the fights are available at the time. Now, will she do a lot of damage to bosses that don't care about element? Yeah. So there's some pretty cool strats using her for Chamber of the Vengeful. Obviously she destroys this Clash of Wills because it's hers. The problem is, for her, if you look at her, there's nothing wrong with her kit, except for it's kind of lacking in support a little bit. She does have that little down arrow, and she has a little up arrow on each of her forms here. We'll take a look at her real quick. The problem is with her base form here, the buffing, it doesn't really come out and help out your team as much as you'd like. So we've got we've got a Rod and Peril at 30%. That's good, of course. We have a couple of different ways to fill LB and buff and add elements and all that. And we have ways to reduce the resist, but that's kind of where her buffing ends. It's mostly just to add, imbues to everybody for physical or hybrid. So this is cool. If you don't have somebody that can imbue these elements already, she's obviously probably worth it for you, because just this by itself is really nice to have 3 different imbues on a single unit. The problem is after she imbues and imperils, she doesn't do anything else. So, and her little buff here, the 300%, this is okay, but if you have Sylvie, you're never going to use this because it doesn't buff LB damage at all. and Sylvie's going to give you this for 400% plus the LB damage. So she's kind of fighting for a slot where, and Sylvie has Earth support already, so she's fighting for the slot where there's already something really good. Um, Again, the previously mentioned limitations on the way she can deal damage, and just the way evoke damage is dealt in the first place. It's going to keep her on the bench in a lot more fights going forward. Obviously, not right now. Right now, she's amazing. Right now, she's a great unit to have. But in a month or two, she might not have much use anymore. It all depends on what elements we're going to be fighting in the future, and if she can hit him with both elements of whatever bosses we're fighting. One of the fights where she would really shine is the final boss in any DV where there is no elemental weakness. The problem is that she's a morale unit because she's a clash unit. So all the bonuses she would get from morale don't do anything in that fight, and that's obviously an issue. So the decision on whether or not to pull for her is very complex. It really depends on what state you are in the game, what resources you have available. If you have over 100k lapis, blowing whatever 36 or whatever it costs to get a pity is pretty much a no-brainer. But if you're at where I'm at, like 70k or less, and you've got Halloween and Nier coming, and you definitely don't want to miss on Nier units, depending. We've had some collaborations in the past that I particularly didn't care about, like Kingdom Hearts and Legend and Secret of Mana. But the gear that came from those are staples, So the Guardian of Light Materias, Flamini's Killer Materia, those things are so good that you don't really want to miss those if you possibly can avoid it. And I regret missing both of those now, just for the gear. Even though I don't really care about the either game or the units from either game. So you don't want that to happen to you with Nier. So even though I don't really care about Nier at all either, I'm saving Lapis for it because I don't want to be screwed out of limited gear that I can't get. So thankfully they'll sometimes run it back. So when we got the Dragon Quest units, or not the Dragon Quest units, the Legend of Mana units, I can't remember, whatever Hawkeye is from. Hawkeye had an exact copy of the LB materia from Kingdom Hearts. So I grabbed one of him just to make sure I could have that materia in case I needed it. These days, it's not really needed, especially if you got your all that's needed is strength materia. That kind of does it, and then some. But there's still hurts to not have Kyrie's Guardian of Light materia. It still hurts to not have Flammy's Killer materia in some instances. And you don't want to miss out on things like that. I still regret not buying Paws of Prosperity, even though I didn't believe in the concept of the way that they were selling that gear at the time. But, looking back on it now, that it's only been twice since they've done something like that, I would like to go back and buy it or get a chance to buy it. So we'll see if that comes back around. I'm actually going to explain my philosophy on the pulling here. So the real big problem in deciding on whether or not to pull is that do you need this card? Because if you don't need this card, you're really taking a huge gamble because of the way evoke damage works. If evoke damage, since it can't be imbued, if the next big fights and events that we have don't use these elements at all, which they'll probably use fire because there's a bunch of fire units. But if there's no earth or there's no light, it's going to be very tough to find yourself using Tsukiko again before she gets power crept, in my opinion. So that's the thing is, like, do you want to gamble the Lapis, especially if you don't need this card? Now, if this card is to the level of Dazzling Demoness, if this card was to the level of the Hio card, I think, yeah, go ahead and go for it. You'll get a good unit you can use right now. You'll get a card that's probably going to be evergreen. So what's up, guys? But like, you can't. I'm doing much better. I mean, I had a lot of things going on, but we're back. So the thing is, this card is just decent. It's not good enough to pull on its own. There's cards we've had before where you looked at the banner and you went, I don't care about any of these units, but I'm pulling for this card anyway because this card's too good to let it go. You don't want Paws of Prosperity syndrome. You don't want those materials that I just talked about where you miss out on them and there's nothing like them for a while, or the abilities are broken up but they're not on one piece of gear. That's like the big thing with this game, right? Is when there comes along an item that doesn't do anything new, but it's everything on one slot and it opens up other slots on a unit, that value is exponentially higher. So you have to really take your time and analyze what it's going to be worth for you. Now, I threw pretty much every ticket I had at this, trying to spike one of these, because I thankfully had a lot of tickets left over from our double premium back to back. I spiked both the Titus and Eject, so I didn't have to waste any real tickets on them. I didn't have to waste any lapis. We'll just throw them in the shard dungeon and we'll be done with them. But realistically, I have to assume I'm gonna have to go to pity. I have to assume that I'm not going to pull any copies, so I'm going to have to spend another 5,000 minimum, and then another 2.2 for the or 3.3. I'm sorry, for the last 30, or for the last 20. We got 30 fragments, right? Yeah. So minimum 7.2 plus the total for this in a card I don't really need, and I'm gambling on a unit that could be on the bench quite a bit in the next 3 to 6 months. I'm not going to pull. However, here's the caveat. On Sunday, I'm going to try some Sakiko-less clears of Clash of Wills. I have almost all the gear that you need. I'm missing Crimson Furrosodes, and I'm missing Guardian of Light, Kyrie. I have everything, and I don't have the upgraded rod because I just haven't bothered with Vengeful. Maybe I'll do some Vengeful this week, and we'll see what happens. If I can get a rank 1 on Sunday without Sakiko, I will not pull for Sakiko. If I can't get a rank 1 without Sakiko, I'm going to watch some Sakiko strats, see what's going on, see how easy it is with her, and then maybe we'll go. But I really don't want to pull for her because I think she's not going to be useful in the same way that our last 7 or 8 staple units have continued to be useful. And and that's exactly for Nier. For Nier and Halloween coming back to back, I've got 70k. You can see it right there. It's kind of pulled down because I can never get this thing to consistently capture correctly because it's a mirror of my device. But one day we'll have an Android emulator on Windows and then it'll be all good. But I don't want to pull. I really don't. I think this is a trap. And it's one that players with really good units already should probably avoid if they can. So, I mean, hey, congratulations. If you pulled her, if you spiked one, congratulations. I think I threw about 80 or so tickets, and I didn't get any. That's also kind of the reason why I didn't want to pull either. I heard that the rates were really, really bad, and they felt like they were way worse than average. So whatever tickets I get between now and when she's off banner, I'll probably go ahead and throw this way because I've got lapis for the other stuff that's coming. But I don't see myself hitting one. And I think it kind of speaks to a larger issue of Evo damage in general and why they're kind of more hesitant to make Evo units. They kind of know they're going to get crept faster. Especially when you can't imbue them. If you can imbue them, it would be a lot different. Even if the unit is element locked, if they're element locked to 3 different elements and they can take an imbue, you can take them into a lot of different fights. But without being able to imbue them, you're looking at 3/8 of the game, and then not even every boss that doesn't have any elemental weakness, because some of those fights don't care about morale gauge. So, yeah, I think it's tough. I think it's a tough position to put players in, especially with, the big month of October coming up. But then again, they haven't really made a complete dud global exclusive unit all year. They've all been somewhat useful, right? So, but it's kind of the problem with, other things with the Evo damage. It makes it hard to make a good unit because, you don't get killers either. Because killers go off of physical and magical damage. Well, evocation damage is not either one of those things. So if the unit doesn't have a way to get killers itself or killer buffs from someone else, it's, again, and in perils and imbues, it's so awkward with the way the game works. I'll talk about that at the end. I usually will wait till the week after, but that's pretty obvious. That situation. But yeah, I'm gonna do my clear attempts on Sunday. We're gonna see what happens. I walked to 99 with no issue, without even thinking about it. So yeah, it's a whole different set of statting gear you have to have. It's a whole different set of things you have to pay attention to. And then if you have Sakiko want to use her in the future, maybe they throw out one of those item step ups again, and the item only has evoke damage on it now, and you're obligated to go after it because you have the one unit that can use it in the game and have things matter. But then again, you're also hedging on that those fights that are coming up will have one of those elements that she can deal damage to, for her to be able to even be used. And I think you only need to look at Knights of Grandshelt as an example of how you can trust Gumi to make sure that the fight's coming. You know, make sure that your units that you just got a month or two ago are not completely relegated to the bench. Um, and yeah, it being its own independent damage type and having all these other different things just makes it way harder for them to fit in with the rest of your units. So that's pretty much all I had to say about her. Again, I might 180 on Monday or next Wednesday and end up pulling for her. We'll see what happens, but I really don't want to spend the money. I just bought Commander Special Edition Magic cards, and it wasn't cheap, and I really don't want to spend any money on this game. It's a really important crossover between Warhammer and Magic, and I wanted to own something nice, that will sit on my shelf and I'll be able to have, like, I'm not gonna open it or anything. It's just gonna sit there. But it wasn't cheap, so I definitely don't want to spend money on this game, especially if we get an avalanche of good stuff thrown at us next month. So it is what it is. Clash itself, there's not much to talk about it with Clash except for the fact that the meta is shifting potentially. This is the first Clash in a long time where Chow, it's pretty much not a Chow Clash of Wills. So, it's kind of interesting to see Kresnik back. So yeah, seems okay. It's still kind of ridiculous that we only have two units that generate a ton of morale or generate enough morale for rank 1 clears. I'm of the camp where I really think that they should lower the EX requirement on this to let more units get in and do things. I think they should add more morale abilities to certain units, especially the units that don't have a whole lot of other things to do. Maybe they have good support. Like let them generate some morale or something. So yeah, I mean, this is what I'm gonna try on Sunday. I'm hoping to have EX3 Olive on Sunday. I got EX3 Chizuru today. I think I have 6 shards left on my Olive. I think she has or 4 shards. I don't know. No, it's not 4. I either need 6 or I need 7. So there's a chance that I have EX3 Olive on Sunday, and that'll help a lot. 500 flat stat is nothing to scoff at. So I'm gonna try this. I don't know if my Espers have enough extra ore on them to make up for the fact that I'm missing a lot of HP. I feel like the double guts on Kresnik and the guts on Sylvie should be enough, but we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. So I'm going in with a little bit less gear than I should have to mirror the clear that I'm going to try. But who knows? Maybe we'll get lucky. And I don't even need to rank 1 this Clash. I have all the gear. I have Ruler Helm, Ruler Robe. I have an extra Magister Helm recipe in case I need to switch my helm back to Magister. I have both my rings. I have my Dancer's Crown. It's about getting more Xenostone in the bank for the next piece if it's a new piece of gear, which who knows? It could be. Could be armor. Could be, something different. Another robe or whatever. But it's more about the lapis than anything else. Like, I just like to have the rank 1 lapis more than anything. So that's what it's about. But it just doesn't seem like it's worth it to me spending a bunch of lapis to get that 10k back, and then, or whatever it is, I don't remember how much it is, but to get that lapis back and then have a unit that potentially doesn't do anything for her life cycle. So Yeah, Halloween I think is where the big stuff's gonna come. I think we're gonna get mediocre units in near. They'll probably have some good items, like most crossovers do. They have good gear for the time. They won't be super meta, but they'll be close. Or you'll need something absurd like EX3, and it'll have some kind of gimmick like Grafted. Where he needs like freaking Roka to uncool down himself so he can two turn. He can take turn one as a setup turn and then burst on turns 2 and 3 and blow up everything instantly. But yeah, so yeah, the only thing I had on my agenda after this was just basically the UI update, which I mean we've all seen it. We've been waiting for it for 6 months. It's cool to finally have it, but it's kind of frustrating it's taken so long. Also, I think there's a lot of other things they still need to do that I don't even know if that are done in Japan yet. So like the friends list issue and so on and so forth. Yeah, Lara was a big miss for me. It probably was why I didn't do as much in Clash at the second half of last year. Um, but she's a viewable in one form, and she's locked to fire in the other. I don't remember. I see. I didn't use her enough. The problem is like a unit being locked to an element, and then also them being locked to a different set of damage. So like if you have Lara here and it's a boss that's fire and X, well you can at least imbue her to and use the same gear on her to get her to add that damage. Sakiko you can't. So like if the Sakiko fight doesn't have those elements, she's just locked out of it. So yeah, she's not. So there you go. She can imbue with fire, and then she's not locked, which is important. And again, if Tsukiko, like I said, if Tsukiko had a much better vision card on this step up, it would be a much easier hedge to make. But when you're asking somebody to make a bet, on your future content, and you don't have a great track record, not giving them the proper incentive to hedge up front is not great. And I just don't trust them. Again, like even with us giving us no light fights after Knights of Grandshell, switching a fight from JP that he would have been useful on to a different element to accommodate that week's pulls, just killed my belief, right? So if it was a physical unit, there's things that can be done. Even Knights of Grandshell, if it's weak to light and X, you can bring him in theory to that DV, right? You can imbue him with the other element and he'll have both. But with the evoker, you can't do that. So if the fight is earth and lightning, you're losing X percentage of damage right there, right? And it's on your finisher, right? So if she was a chainer, probably doesn't matter, right? But you can't. Has there ever been an evoker that had like triple bolting strike? That's a viable chainer. Does Yuna has triple? No, wait. Does she have triple bolting? I don't know. It's just awkward. The evoke damage conundrum is an awkward position to be in. That's all. I wish they would have figured out a way around it because Tsukiko's a cool unit. I'm not like a big fan of most of the global units. I put Tsukiko in like a B tier of interesting. I like Tsukiko and Nobara. I like the Kabuki style looking like weird characters. Like they're interesting and stuff. But like, uh, it's just tough. It's just tough. Yeah. So she changed those three elements. That's good. At least she changed those three elements. But again, like if she was imbuable, she could chain other elements. The problem with it is you still have to deal damage, right? You have to deal 1 damage per hit. If you're dealing 0 damage, it doesn't work. And so if you go into a boss that's 300% resistant or whatever to the elements that she has, and you can't imbue her, she can't even chain for you. So, what do you do at that point? I just wish that Gumi would have put us in a slightly better position. I wish they would have pushed this card a little bit more to make it an easier pull to make for people with less lapis, for people that are rolling in dough and can buy packages. Like I usually buy a fountain, here and there because it's $7. Who gives a shit? But if we have back-to-back Halloween banners and a near banner in whatever order, 3 weeks in a row, and you've got to go to pity twice. I only have 2 pities saved. Then the third pity I don't have. So you're looking at the big bundles. You're looking at the $50, the $75, the $99 bundles, and I just don't want to spend that in the fall. I don't want to spend that this year because, like I said, I invested in something else. So all this combination of stuff, you know, I'll let it go. Now I will. Normally, I wait until the next week to talk about the stuff that's coming, or because I like to let other people do the news. Other people already do a better version of the news. I come in on the back end and I go, let's evaluate what actually happened. Now that we've got a week under our belt, how was it? How are things going? Was the value good? Was it not? Are these new fights good? Are they not? But we will talk about this because this is obviously a huge issue. Um, this Napi thing, where the intrinsic ability is limited to the banner, and it may be available later. So who knows? We don't know. But part of the biggest issue in the game, especially on the global server, is that we never know anything. They don't communicate anything, and they don't seem to pay attention to what people do after they don't communicate anything, which is run wild with speculation. And all that does is it discourages people from being excited about things that are coming because they get pessimistic and they're like, well, they don't do things right normally. And it seemed like they finally understood that during Anniversary, and they turned it all around, and they had all this goodwill. They got people to come back from the game. Like Clay came back, and I had my buddy that played before I did came back. He's playing this right now because he had nothing else to play. They had all this goodwill. I was hype. I was showing him what to do. I was like, yeah, pull for Sylvie. Once you get a couple Sylvies, then pull for Esther with what you got left. Buy the card thing because you missed these cards. Pick this card or that card because that's the best to grab. He did the limiteds. He got some chows. He's doing Clash. It's all that. I got him watching all the channels. Lots of goodwill, but they've kind of slowly just eroded it with all the things that we've just been speaking about. And intrinsic abilities was kind of like one of those goodwill items where it's like, okay, here's everybody gets these 4 abilities, and they gave us 2 more, and they're like, hey, these are free. Here you go. You make a new account right now. You get all those materia right now. It's not even a limited time thing. You make a new account today, you get the I think it was 4 initially and 2 more. And we're getting 2 that are going into a guild shop, and I think that's totally fine because there's literally nothing to do with guild once you get to end game at all. So, as you can see, I have 470 million sitting up there, and I have, probably 1,000 freaking guild turtles just laying around, and that I can't do anything with. That's fine, but locking this behind a substantial amount of lapis, the Napi one, for a fan-designed unit, which people enjoyed, and that has never really been done right because she has bad chaining families and a very awkward kit. I think this is terrible. I think it's terrible, and I think it's intentionally terrible. I think this is a test. This is a test to see how dumb we are. Even more so than those voting polls that we get where we vote for the best prize. There's always one prize that's clearly completely garbage. There's one prize that's absolutely medium, and it's like, that'd be nice to have for free, but it's not really that great. And then there's an obvious pick. It's almost always this way. There's an obvious pick that's much more value, and it's like a test of the community's intelligence. And I hate that. Assume everybody who's spending money on your game is intelligent. Treat them with dignity and respect, and they'll treat you right by spending on the game. I feel really bad for the person who designed this unit because I like Napi. I think it's a cool unit. I like Moogles in general. I've always been a big fan. I like that it's unique, that that they're using a great sword. You've never seen the Moogle use a great sword before, really. And it's a cool design. I would have, if this came with a unit rework and the price was half this, and it had better pull, like, rate slash amount, like the 6+1 at the end and 4+5. Why not just 3 10+1s? What is this garbage? Um, what is this crap? It's insulting to my intelligence, and it's insulting to the entire community's intelligence that this even exists. And it's a disservice to the person who worked hard on this design, and it's a disservice to the community, all of us who voted for it to be in the game. It deserves better respect than this. And of all the things that they've done since Anniversary that have grinded my gears, this might be the number one thing. I just because it's a fan design unit, and I think it's absolutely shameful that they're going to try to rinse you for 1200 lapis for for you know an intrinsic that you should be able to buy with Gil, that we don't even know if it's going to make the unit anywhere near relevant. And even if it does, even if there's 450x modifier on her after this fucking thing is equipped, it doesn't matter in most fights because her chaining is crap. How do you chain SR in any fight right now? You don't. There's no reason for you to do it. This is a perfect unit. It's a fan design unit. You can do right. You can add bolting strike or fucking change the SR attacks to bolting strike. Like just change the animation and be done. It's Earth, so it fits into this clash. You've got ridiculously good Earth support in the game right now. You've got Sylvie and Sakiko. You've even got great Earth DPS that'll stand right next to this unit that are old, like Graf. Graf can do imbuable damage, but he can also do ridiculous amounts of Earth damage. Sustain, even not burst. So this was an opportunity to like really bring back a fan favorite unit that didn't get a really good run. And it seems like it's just a test of how stupid we are to buy this. And I couldn't be more disappointed. And it's not even for me. I see companies do this shit all the time. I'm disappointed for the community that voted for this fan unit to be in the game, and I'm especially disappointed for the person who designed this unit. They deserve so much better than this shit. Because out of all the fan design units, Napi probably saw the least amount of use. I'm trying to think. Bahimi saw a bunch of use. Yigni saw a bunch of use. Was Louise a fan design unit? She's seen a bunch of use. Most of the... No, Louise wasn't. The four units that are on that special squad, Yoshi, Kiri, Louise, Elena, and Wilk, those are not fan designed, right? But I'm trying to think, was there 4 or 6 fan design units that made it in? Oh, Bulwark. Bulwark's a fan design unit, right? Seen a ton of use, still see some use. Like, I don't know, Gumi. I mean, I know you don't watch my video or anything, but this is insulting to every player's intelligence that plays this game. And it's even more so. It's so insulting to us that it's even more so insulting to the people who voted to have this unit in the game, who like this unit, and it's triply insulting to the person who designed it. And I think this kind of shit should never happen again. I hope nobody buys it. But I'm sad because this is an opportunity for people who maybe just started playing the game or came back during Anniversary to play with a fan design unit that's really cool, but sucks, and they're getting rinsed for the chance to even play it in a team where it might do anything, where it might do something. Because that intrinsic on its own doesn't mean anything unless it increases the LB to like 420x modifier or higher. Even at 420x, it's only a finisher with some support utility, some tanking utility. You're not going to chain with this unit with only Stardust, right? You're just not. So it's... I mean, I guess what you could do is if you have the Hio card, you could EN chain with this, right? Or if you bring her with Esther and Sylvie, because you'll want her support, you can take a turn off to give EN chaining to her with Sylvie, right? Or with Esther. So, but even then, why would you make players jump through that hoop to be able to use this cool unit that you obviously thought was cool enough to give a fucking intrinsic ability, but you won't, you won't frickin', You won't frickin' give it to players for a fair price. If Paws of Prosperity costs 5,000 Lapis, this has no case to cost more than 5,000 Lapis. Ever. Ever. Again, it's a slap in the face of everybody who plays this game. And it's a double slap in the face of the people who voted for the unit. And it's a triple slap in the face of the wonderful person who designed it. So, there you go. Rant over. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can join me on Twitch TV when I stream live. Usually it's Wednesday night for this to record, and it's Sunday for variety stuff. We've been playing other Final Fantasy games lately. Right now, I'm not really in the position to be doing a ton at the moment. But this Sunday, if you're watching this tonight or tomorrow or anytime during the week, this Sunday we will be trying Sakiko list clears of 300x modifier Clash of Wills. So please join me for that. I will also post a link in the description for the strat I'm going to try. It's probably our community's #1 MVP content creator Sinzar's strat. I'm a little short in the gear, but we're going to try it anyway. And we'll post that link again, of course, in the Sunday video. But yeah, join me over there. I'm going to cut this now, and I'm going to continue to stream over on the channel. So hopefully we'll see you then. And if I don't see you before next Wednesday, we got a lot to talk about coming up. This week's pretty interesting. I got some hot takes for you. So tune in next Wednesday, guys. We'll see you.